All right, what's good everyone? OJ here. Welcome back to another video. Today we've got some awesome information for you guys. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. And we're starting off with Persona 3 Remake. Now, for those who don't know, the Microsoft Xbox Showcase 2023 with Starfield that's set up to be a huge show is going down this Sunday. I will be live streaming it. And there has been rumors floating around that Persona 3 Remake will be announced at this show. Now, there's a little bit of history with this because if you don't remember, the Persona 3, 4, and 5, all of those were announced at an Xbox show coming to Game Pass, and people didn't know, is it coming to other platforms? What's going on here? Atlas is being weird, and then eventually it was announced for PlayStation, then eventually announced for the Nintendo Switch, but there was a marketing deal with Xbox with Game Pass, and Atlas is being incredibly tight-lipped about the sales breakdown when it comes to what platforms sold what. But I can tell you right now, guys, that re-release of Persona 3, 4, and 5 did incredible on the Nintendo Switch. So Atlas knows what's going on there. But how does that take us to Persona 3? Well, a Persona data miner has actually uncovered that Persona 3 Remake will be announced soon, lining up with the Xbox reveal rumor that's been going on. And also, it will be multi-platform, or Atlas will be releasing the games on multiple platforms. So let's go ahead and get right into it here. So Panhime on Twitter had this to say, who's a noted data miner. Look, all I know is P3 Remake will be announced soon, and P5T isn't a fighting game and not an Akechi game. Also, will they be announced together? Don't know, LOL. And then he finished off with, the Atlas initiative for releasing games on all platforms is real. So that's something that Atlas was heavily criticized by Nintendo fans quite a bit. Like, why are you doing all of this exclusive stuff here and there? Heck, Nintendo fans didn't even know why Shin Megami Tensei was exclusive to 3DS, then exclusive to Switch. It seemed incredibly weird. Atlas kind of had more of that old school 6th generation mindset or so of how the industry was back then with the GameCube and the PS2 and the Xbox, and kind of putting games out based off of that. But I think that Atlas clearly, after the whole situation that went down where sales were not very good across the board, Atlas has made some strides, and it's turned Persona into a mega franchise now that they've brought it over to multiple platforms, re-releases, HD, remasters, re-releases as well. Persona has become a somewhat household name at this point. Persona 5 has done incredibly well, selling a lot more than what anybody thought Persona could even do. So going into Persona 3 Remake, it definitely seems like they're going to be using that Persona 5 engine and bringing it to Xbox Series, bringing it to PlayStation, and also the Nintendo Switch based off of what Panhime had to say here. But I'm just excited to see more of it because there was a definitive leak of the game on Twitter that I covered on my channel, and it was promptly deleted. I think Atlas got that thing deleted, or the guy deleted it. Either way, something happened there. So we did get a snippet of that Persona 3 Remake footage, so I would guess that it is going to be revealed at this Xbox show or sometime soon. I mean, who knows, but I'm guessing it's going to be there, and it's going to be lit to be able to play Persona 3 because, to be honest, like, that re-release of Persona 3 wasn't its best footing. It wasn't its best representation of what Persona 3 is about with Persona 3 FES. So I do think that this Persona 3 Remake could ultimately fix everything with the re-releases of Persona 3, Persona 3 Portable, and all of that if we get a super high quality remake. But we also have to remember this. Atlas is not used to doing remakes on this type of scale. The biggest game they've done with the Persona franchise is Persona 5 Royal. That's the biggest game. That's not really a remake. That was more of a remastering or retuning of Persona 5, which they already did once before. So they did Persona 5, then Persona 5 Royal on the PS4, then Persona 5 Royal on PS5, Xbox Series, and the Nintendo Switch. So that's the biggest thing that they've done so far. We need to wait and see exactly how they handle a remake of an older game. Now, they've remade games before, but not to this scale. So this should be a major announcement, and I'm looking forward to seeing it on all the different platforms. I would be shocked if it wasn't coming to everything. Now, at this Xbox event, it could just say Xbox, and then later at an unannounced time that it's revealed for other platforms, because it did take a little bit of time in between the Xbox reveal for Persona 3, Persona 4, and Persona 5, and then also the PlayStation, then Nintendo Switch reveal. But I think eventually it'll get announced for everything. So we're going to have to wait and see on that, but it should be incredible. And I think that's going to be a pretty cool game to play portable on a Switch OLED. I think it's going to look fantastic based off of the small snippet that we've seen already. But let's get into some more RPG goodness here, guys, because if you like Final Fantasy, well, of course, everybody likes Final Fantasy for the most part. Not everybody, but lots of people do. And yes, Final Fantasy 16 is coming out. That's going to be awesome. I'll be covering it. I'll be playing it. It's going to be a lot of fun. But what about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which I think at this point might be garnering more interest than Final Fantasy 16, even though Final Fantasy 16 is coming out very soon as the time that I'm recording this video. But the official Final Fantasy VII account on Twitter with Square Enix has started to drop some information on the game. So we're going to go ahead and break down what's going on here and why this game might be a bit more exciting than Final Fantasy 16. So Final Fantasy VII Rebirth producer Yoshinori Kitase, in the second developer comment posted on Twitter, revealed the game will feature a world with a high degree of freedom. When asked how players will journey through the world outside of Midgar, players will be able to journey across the wide and multifaceted world with a high degree of freedom, experiencing a myriad of different stories along the way, said Kitase. Now, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth will launch for the PlayStation 5 in winter 2023, and I think it's more just winter, like a winter 2023. That could actually extend to 2024, so we're gonna have to wait on that one. But I like the fact that they're actually giving some more details here, kind of teasing us a little bit, because this was the worst thing with Final Fantasy VII Remake. Like, I like the game. I think the combat system is dope. I think the music is fantastic. I think the graphics are great, but the structure of that game was busted, in my opinion. There was too many times where you'd have certain characters for some parts, then a large part of the game they'd be gone. I understand it mirrors what you're doing with the original game, but the original game had you going outside of Midgar, had you doing way more side quests, had you really encompassing way more characters. This one did not. The remake did not. It kept you in Midgar. It felt claustrophobic, and it felt to the point to where, like, the structure in terms of what they were trying to do, it just felt off and awkward. It felt like I was going through like a linear game that tried to do things a little bit more open sometimes, but failed miserably, then tried to add in some traditional Japanese RPG parts, like with the cranes and everything in that one tunnel. Like, it was just not structured very well. So it seems like they're saying, okay, we heard you guys with that one. We heard you guys with FF7 Remake, but now we actually have an open-ended area for you guys to explore, a degree of freedom, not being hamstrung with the confines of Midgar and certain different types of alleyways and pathways leading you along a path to get to somewhere. Now you can just kind of have that freedom that Final Fantasy has been known for in the past. So this is definitely something awesome. It's multifaceted, high degree of freedom, and a myriad of different stories along the way. So that's going to be side quests. This is a good thing for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and I'm very excited to see how they do this, because now at this point, after you've rewritten that original story, you can now really kind of go in and do different things, and you can make it to where you keep all the characters in your party that are there. They don't have to leave for this amount of time or that, because you've already established a new narrative with the base of the root of FF7. So now you don't have to follow things. You can change things up. You can have your characters stay there. You can have that degree of freedom and move around and create new things. So I love what they're doing here. This is what it's about when it comes to Final Fantasy, and I'm very excited for this game. And at this point, I'm not going to say I'm completely more excited for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth over Final Fantasy 16, but Final Fantasy VII Rebirth feels more like what I'd want to play in a Final Fantasy game based off of what Final Fantasy VII Remake is and the gameplay in that game compared to what I've seen with Final Fantasy 16, and of course the characters and the story and what they're doing with Final Fantasy VII, which I just think I like more. But once again, these are brand new characters for Final Fantasy 16, so I don't know how it's going to turn out. But when you go with Cloud and Sephiroth and all that, it's hard to kind of go against that, considering the history and legacy of those characters. But we'll see how it all turns out. But very excited for that. Now, last but definitely not least, guys, we're going to get into this Xbox Games Showcase. We've got some information here. We did talk before about Persona 3 Remake, but Aaron Greenberg has stated that this show is actually going to have a lot of games, and more games. Now, I do also want to talk about this because I will be streaming the show. I did talk about it briefly, or just kind of put like a little text message or whatever in my last video that I talked about it, but I actually want to talk about me streaming the show. So I will be streaming it. It'll be this Sunday. We've got a huge lineup of streaming for this week upcoming, guys. It's going to be lit. You're going to want to make sure that you subscribe, hit the notification bell, all of that, because it's going to be big. The Summer Games Fest is this week on June 8th. We've got the Xbox Games Showcase on Sunday, and then we've got the Ubisoft Forward on Monday that I might or might not stream because they're crazy with copyrights. But I know for a fact that I will be streaming this Xbox Games Showcase with Starfield 2. It's going to be roughly 2 hours long, so we should be streaming for about 3 hours or maybe even more. I usually like to go live a bit early. So let's talk about why this is a bit exciting out there for fans. So here's what Microsoft's GM of Xbox Games Marketing, Aaron Greenberg, had to say on Twitter about the Xbox Games Showcase and Starfield Direct. Roughly 2 hours in length confirmed. 7 days until our first ever double feature, said Greenberg. Roughly 2 hours of nonstop games, and Starfield. Now, he responded to many other people on there as well, asking questions about, hey, is this going to be gameplay, CGI for unannounced titles? What's going on? And Greenberg had this to say: none of our first-party games in the show are full CG trailers. Everything is either in-game footage, in-engine footage, or in-game footage with some cinematics. Each of our trailers will be labeled so it is hopefully clear for our fans. That's something that the video game industry hasn't been incredible at. Nintendo's done a good job at their showcases or their directs, but sometimes people are a little bit fooled with what's going on there. So I'm glad that he said that they're going to label it. So that's definitely good. Now, whether Microsoft is going to pull the stunt they pulled last time, saying, hey, everything's going to be out within 12 months, and then pretty much none of that comes out within 12 months. No, they're not going to be doing that. Aaron Greenberg has confirmed that no, it's not all going to be out in 12 months. It's just a bunch of games, and who knows, there might be some release dates. There might be some, okay, it's going to be release windows. It's going to be whatever, or just no date at all. So we don't know at that point. And then last here, they talked about TV series, or is there going to be like movie trailers or anything like that? And Aaron Greenberg also confirmed that there will be no movie or TV show trailers in the game showcase. So obviously we have that Gran Turismo that was in Sony's showcase, and Nintendo did put in the Super Mario movie in one of theirs as well. Also snuck in some like mobile games, I think Pikmin Bloom, but then they announced Pikmin 4 as well. So it's kind of like a tie-in there. But I do think that this is good. This is good to hear. But once again, Microsoft has to prove this, right? Everyone's getting excited. I think people are looking forward to a good show. We don't know what Nintendo's going to be doing. You know, at this point, they haven't announced anything. The Sony show was a little bit of a dud. Not terrible, but a little bit of a dud. So people are looking forward to this. Hopefully we get a good show. Hopefully we get good shows with the Ubisoft Forward and also Summer Games Fest. So I have a little bit of hope. In terms of my anticipation for this, I'm like at a solid 6 or 7, because Microsoft has done this before, right? So I don't want to fall into the same game when it comes down to it and hype it up to the max, like this is going to be the greatest show ever or anything. Microsoft has been known to do this. So I will be a little bit optimistic on how good the show can be, but I'm not going to sit here and say, okay, this is going to be the greatest thing ever. Now, they did seem like they teased Fable at this show. So for those who don't know, I'm a huge Fable fan, or at least I was a huge Fable fan, and then they completely ruined the franchise, and it's been dormant for a very long time at this point, like a decade plus. So apparently Fable might be there based off of the Twitter tease, but we're gonna have to wait and see. I'm looking forward to Fable. Like if they show Fable and it looks good and they have like a release date or a release window, I'll be very happy with the show. At least I'll be very happy with that. Maybe Perfect Dark gets a first showing as well. They announced a lot of these games years ago and nothing's been released from them. So we need to see more of that. We need to see more of the games they've already announced 2 years ago, 3 years ago. You know, we need to see Hellblade. We need to update on that. It's been a while for that one. So we'll see how it all works out, man. I'm excited to just see what's going on here, but I'm not going to hype it up to the max or anything like that. So what do you guys think about this when it comes to everything that we talked? Persona, Final Fantasy, Xbox Games Showcase. A lot of hype going around the industry. It's kind of ramping up with some of these shows and events. I know I'm going to be there for all of them. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section. Also, make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, also hit the notification bell, and check out our videos right here on screen if you want to watch something else in the RPG realm, Nintendo Switch realm, and more. Thank you for watching. We'll catch you for the next one. Peace.